The stability of U.S. banks and the safety of individual deposit accounts in grave danger, as former money manager Ann Barnhart says the marketplace is destroyed, and it's time to get your money out. Meanwhile, something strange appears to be happening all over the globe, as government and big banks are acting as if they are anticipating an imminent financial collapse. Plus, fears that federal authorities are preparing for mass civil unrest have increased after it was revealed that the Department of Homeland Security is planning to buy 750 million rounds of ammo. This in addition to the 450 million rounds of hollow point bullets already purchased earlier this year.
All right, we got quite a show for you. Let's kick it off with the DHS. Now they're buying, looks like, over 1 billion bullets. Here's the headline from InfoWars. DHS to purchase another 750 million rounds of ammo. Second ammunition buy this year fuels massive civil unrest. Fears that federal authorities are preparing for mass civil unrest have increased after it was revealed that the Department of Homeland Security is planning to buy 750 rounds of ammo in addition to the 450 million rounds of hollow point bullets already purchased earlier this year. Wow, isn't that great? With the total ammo purchase, there's a PDF file we're going to show you in a second. It's got the total ammo purchase exceeding 750 million rounds. That is 4 bullets for every man, woman, and child in the United States. And there it is. There's our 4 bullets. And they're hollow point, of course, because, you know, you use hollow point when you really care to send that message to that special someone out there. This is really disturbing. You know, there's speculation of 2 different reasons of why they're buying this. One, they're either going to use it on us, or 2, they're buying it up so we can't use it to protect ourselves in the event of a major collapse. Because nobody's going to go out there and go to war with DHS. But we do have the right to defend ourselves, and we do have the right to defend ourselves from an unjust government. And that 750 million rounds points to there's the PDF we have over on the screen right there. You could see, and that's linked in the article. You can see all the different versions of that. Before that, on March 28th, Business Insider reported the Department of Homeland Security is buying 450 million new bullets. And these are, let's see, what does it say here? The 223s caliber and exactly the same round used by NATO forces, the 5.56 by 45 millimeter. So there's that article there. And the USDA is buying ammo. Everybody's making million-round purchases of ammo. It's just not passe to get 100,000 bullets for target practice. Now we got to buy millions of rounds. And why is that going to happen? Well, leads us to our next article. Are the government and big banks quietly preparing for an imminent financial collapse? Okay. And this is well, it's sourced from Reuters. Something really strange appears to be happening all over the globe. Governments and big banks are acting as if they are anticipating an imminent financial collapse, and that's from the Economic Collapse blog. There it is right there. And they source Reuters. U.S. regulators directed 5 of the country's biggest banks, including Bank of America Corp., Goldman Sachs, to develop plans to stave off of collapse if they fear serious problems, emphasizing the banks could not count on government help like they did last time. The 2-year-old program, which has largely been secret until now, is in addition to the living wills, which we reported a few weeks ago, the banks have crafted to help regulators dismantle them if they actually do fail. It shows how regulators are working to ensure that banks have plans for the worst-case scenarios and can act rationally in times of distress. Does this seem odd to anyone else that only the big banks get a warning? That seems odd to me. And why keep it secret from the American public? This is stuff that has to be fished out of little white papers and put on the web, and it's not mainstream media reporting on it. This is Economic Collapse blog, and it goes on to cite further instances. And there's an interesting little quiet please, which we have loose talk can cost lives, because that's what's going to happen. People are starting to talk. We've got IRS whistleblowers that we've had on the show. We're talking about how the whole system is basically fraudulent and it's set up to fail. But you know, the big guys up top are not going to get, they're not going to have any problems. They've already built their redoubts. They've got their food. It's just going to be bad. So the SHTF plan has, and we posted this today, warning, get your money out. All legal bank deposit protections are officially gone. And this goes back to 2011 when there is former money manager Ann Barnhart. She ceased operating her brokerage firm and returned funds to her customers, citing systemic problems within the entire financial industry. And she issued a new warning about the stability of banks and the safety of individual deposits. Well, what happened last year, 2011? Remember, that's when Gerald Celente was getting on, talking about Corzine stealing his money. And, well, that's what happened. This goes back even before Celente. This comes from a recent appeals court ruling surrounding customer funds lost during a 2007 collapse of Chicago futures broker Sentinel. Indicates that individuals who lose deposited funds because financial institution improperly manages that money, even if those funds are supposed to be segregated, which means they're not supposed to be invested by the company, from other operations of the firm, they're simply left with no recourse if the firm goes belly up. And that was according to the court. Here it is. A miscalculation of customer funds is not on its own sufficient to rule as a matter of law that Sentinel acted without intent to hinder, delay, or defraud its customers. So basically what they're doing is legalizing the theft of your money, and even if it's in a segregated account, they get to use it however they want, they get to squander it, they get to bet with it, and if they lose it, it ain't no problem. And that's why Ann Barnhart left the industry, putting out that call to her investors and giving them their money back. And Mark Slavo ends with this. Guys, it's over. I know many of you are still cowering in normalcy bias, unable to deal with reality, unable to face the world as it is, but you've got to snap out of it. The marketplace is destroyed. You cannot be in these markets. All legal protections are now officially gone. And that's it. I mean, that's why DHS is buying all these bullets, because when people realize that the system is fake and that it has collapsed, there's going to be a lot of riots. There's going to be, that's why they're buying all that riot gear. The Army is even buying it now. They're getting ready for everything to implode, for people to be out in the streets demanding answers. And when the riots start, people are going to be asking for the Army. We've already seen signs in Detroit of people spray painting on the walls, where's the 20,000 troops in Detroit? People are going to be calling for this stuff because it's going to be so bad.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Meggido Rising current events and happenings for August 23rd, 2012. And today, usually when I do the current events, what I like to try to do is cover a vast array of topics and you know, just go over them all. But the topic that we're going to be covering today, I figured that it needed to go in depth, and this is all stuff that came out last week, and it's still relevant. There's some current stuff that I got in here, but as you can see here, we have a lot to go over. Okay, and I will be putting all the links below. I want to make a quick announcement and a quick update. I will be finishing off this month of August on Blog Talk Radio. Now, I'm not going to close my account, but I'm going to be getting rid of the premium membership. The archived episodes will still be there, so you can still check those up or check those out. Right now, I'm actually on camera filming myself and getting ready to put this on YouTube and everything as it gets done. You know, do the editing, because obviously there's stuff that's going to be on YouTube that you're not going to be able to watch or listen to, because you have to watch, because I got a video that's going to be played at the end of the YouTube version of this. So I ended up creating an official website. It's called MeggidoRising.com. That's MeggidoRising.com. I don't have contact information for, you know, setup or whatever, but I do plan on getting a setup to where if you want to send me your email address and stuff like that, I will try to update as much as I can as far as newsletters and these types of things, and try to send them out. and because now I'll be able to do that with my own website. And also, again, as I just said, that this, because after the 5th of September, I'm not going to be on Blog Talk Radio anymore. Okay, my audios are going to be uploaded to MeggidoRising.com. My dedicated teachings, like the depth of Antichrist study that I'm in the process of doing, those probably won't be up on YouTube. I haven't decided yet, but most of the dedicated teachings will be in a audio format, because there really isn't no like extra footage or videos I want to show you. That's the reason why I've decided to do this. So it's you can go and check out MeggidoRising.com. That'll be updated daily, every evening, with current events, things that are happening. Plus, also you look for my audios. I'll have a section for that. And then also my YouTube channel is JJ Vassal 1982. Okay, that's JJ Vassal 1982. You go in there, I got everything separated in playlists. There's documentaries you can watch. I have some daily devotionals in there. And plus, now that I am bringing everything all in one site, I can actually concentrate on going back to doing daily devotionals, or devotionals, because I don't know if they'll be daily, but you know, and these types of things to give you some encouragements and these types of things as well. But the more upfront part of this ministry, I guess you could say, is, you know, the current events, end times. I'm doing dedicated studies in these types of things, exposures, and things of that nature, to see what the big picture is and see who is behind all of it, and to see who is in control. So anyways, so that's basically my announcement. MeggidoRising.com is the website. My email address is jessevassal@yahoo.com. And my YouTube channel is JJ Vassal 1982. Go ahead and subscribe to that for any late-breaking videos. And that's that. So now the topic of this is obviously no weapon formed against me shall prosper. Government agencies buying up mass ammunition in preparation for mass chaos and civil unrest. And really, when it boils down to it, all, it's really going to come down to really two verses that I can really come to terms with. And that's Revelation 6:5 and 6:6, where it says, "And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." This kind of seems like more of a economic, financial, chaotic atmosphere. You know, like in World War II, they were carrying wheelbarrows full of cash, paper monies, in order to buy themselves a loaf of bread. And we're going to be coming into that point in time again. Okay? I think it's very interesting that when you look at the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and you look at the time of sorrows before it says they will deliver you up, if you really boil that down and compare Scripture with Scripture right there, it basically falls right in line of Matthew 24, I think, 3 verse 9. Okay? You know, where it says wars and rumors of wars, kingdom shall rise against kingdom and nation against nation. We're going to be focusing more on a nation versus nation, because nation, you got to remember, folks, nation in the old text was a civil group, was like civil unrest. Okay, civil citizens against the civil government or whatever, basically fighting amongst themselves. And we see this happening. over and over again, and we're going to be getting right into it, and you're going to see that in this presentation. So, okay, so first article, and for those on video, I apologize if I end up sipping a glass of water here and there. I haven't been on camera in a long time, so bear with me. So, okay, this is the first article. This is from naturalnews.com, and it says the U.S. government coming war with the American people. Insane quantities of government ammo. Purchases point to only one purpose. Okay. It goes on to say, at the same time, politicians in Washington are openly talking about banning online ammo sales to American citizens. The government itself is arming itself to the teeth. But not in the military sense either. The Department of Homeland Security is stockpiling insane quantities of anti-personnel hollow point ammo of all calibers, including 00 tactical shotgun ammo, anti-personnel pistol rounds, and match-grade 308 sniper rounds as the DHS fights, 308 sniper rounds. Now, the DHS fights no foreign wars, okay? DHS has nothing to do with foreign invasions or anything. And it only has jurisdiction in the United States, so when when push comes to shove, the only purpose of this ammo can be used against is the American people. Okay, because the DHS has nothing to do with the military or any of that. The most recent DHS solicitation contract is seeking massive quantities of anti-personnel ammunition for the Department of Homeland Security, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. Okay, and there's a PDF document from fbo.gov, and I'm going to show that to you right now, so I can show you that on the video you'll be able to see this. Excuse me. You can see this clear as day. This is the document from Department of Homeland Security, okay, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, 1131 Chapel Crossing Road, Building 93, attention Shirley Wood, Glencoe, Georgia, 31524. So, there's the proof of that. And it goes on to say, acceptance of an award certifies that the firm will comply with FAR 52.22-50, combating trafficking in persons, by notifying all employees and subcontractors at all levels, period of performance, 10/1, October 1st, 2012, to September 30th, 2017. Okay, so that's a period you might want to keep an eye on. So, and again, it goes on in this PDF format document from the government, basically. It's basically going on and saying all the different rounds they're buying. .223 Ram caliber, 55 grain, 521. I think that's rounds. .223 Ram caliber, 55 grain soft point, 88. .223 Ram caliber, 62-64 grain JHP. And this is all ammunition, okay? I mean, it just goes on and on and on. You can see it again. Here's some more. 30-06 Springfield caliber or higher grain FMC. This is some highly duty stuff here. .308 Win caliber, 168 grain. That's 55 rounds of that. 10 millimeter auto 180 grain JHP. 11 rounds for that. 12 GA target number 7, 3-4 or 3/4 inches, 220. 220 rounds. 12 gauge rifled slug, 1 ounce, 2 3/4 inch, full recoil. So it goes on and on and on. I mean, you can see all the mass amounts of ammunition they are purchasing. .40 Smith & Wesson caliber, 180 grain JHP. .45 auto caliber, 230 grain FMC, 2,824 rounds of the Smith & Wesson. I mean, it's quite staggering. So, you know, this is the PDF I'm showing you before me, and I just wanted to show that. I will provide a link to this PDF in the description box on my YouTube channel. Now, as you saw for yourself, this DHS contract requests huge quantities. I didn't go over the whole thing. I mean, it's pretty long, 93 pages. Yeah, 93 pages. As you can see for yourself, the DHS contract requests huge quantities of all the following ammunition and much more. For example, over 1 million rounds of hollow point .223 rifle ammo, over 500,000 rounds of non-hollow point .223 rifle ammo, 220,000 rounds of 12-gauge shotgun number 7 ammo, over 200,000 rounds of 12-gauge shotgun 00 buckshot ammo, tactical anti-personnel ammo, that's basically what it is, 66,000 rounds of 12-gauge shotgun slugs, tactical anti-personnel, anti-vehicle rounds, over 2 million rounds of hollow point .357 SIG JPH hollow point pistol ammo, anti-personnel. The 66,000 rounds of 12-gauge shotgun slugs are for tactical anti-personnel and vehicle rounds. I don't know why they need that. Over 60,000 rounds of .308 match-grade anti-personnel sniper rounds, plus hundreds of thousands of additional rounds of 38 special, 45 automatic, 9mm, 7.62 by 3.9 AK rifles, ammo, and others. This is on top of the massive 450 million 4.40 Smith & Wesson hollow point rounds the DHS has already requisitioned. Okay? So the only rational conclusion DHS is training a domestic army is DHS is training a domestic army for war with the American people. That's the only thing you can come to. Because again, DHS has no jurisdiction outside of this country. They only have jurisdiction within the United States. So, what else would they need it for? Again, there's only one rational conclusion to all this. The Department of Homeland Security is training a domestic army and army pedophiles, perverts, child porn distributors, and drug dealers. All you have to do is look at your TSA agents for all that. I mean, they're basically coming out in the woodwork now. It was reported that they had TSA agents in the Paul Ryan convention, the running mate for, or the could-be vice president to Mitt Romney if he is elected. And he goes on to say again, I have warned about the rise of the Nazi-like power of the DHS, and he gives a link, and now we're seeing the result of a runaway power grab that will, before very long, be used to engage in mass shootings of American protesters. And you see that kind of stuff happening already. So you can see the nation against nation here in this country. You see it like crazy over there in the East, and it's slowly coming over here. So what protesters, you ask? The protesters who will take to the streets immediately following the collapse of the global banking fraud, of course. And if that's new information to you, you need to get ahead of the curve on real-time history in the making. The global banking cartel is based on a pyramid of total financial fraud and is going to come crashing down within the next 24 months. Now, he's given that estimation. That's what he believes. I am not going to put a date on anything. I never do that. I do believe that these things are coming to a head. I believe that it's going to get really nasty soon. I mean, when I say soon, I mean it could be very soon. It could be a couple weeks, a couple months, a couple years. But it is significant, though, because it is 2012. And, I mean, you look at the whole New Age thing. They are looking to bring forth a huge amount of chaos to establish their new world order, the Age of Aquarius, New Age of Aquarius, and these types of things. So, I mean, you got to put that in mind, too. So, imagine Chase Bank, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, all bankrupt. Stock worth zero, suffocated under endless trillions of fraudulent derivatives. That's what's coming. It seems, and if you want the hard-hitting analysis of the situation, listen to this recent interview between Max Kaiser and Alex Jones, da-da-da-da-da. Ron Paul also warns about all this in his own video released on May 10th, 2012. And then he goes on to say further, the U.S. government clearly sees the writing on the wall, and that's kind of fitting. I mean, they basically know what's going on. They know what's going to happen, okay? So, just bear that in mind. What lays ahead for America is a day of unbearable reckoning. The financial collapse will wipe out savings accounts, pensions, investment funds, and equities of the working class all across the nation. Imagine bank accounts being reset to zero, bank holidays enforced at gunpoint. It's coming, folks. That will unleash a wave of violent protest, social chaos, and even talk of revolution. Okay, we already have that going on now. The government will almost certainly respond with a declaration of martial law, the rolling out of highway checkpoints, and before long the use of live ammo on unruly protesters. And moving further along, as the government stockpiles ammo, so do the citizens. What's happening behind the scenes in America right now is a massive armament buildup of epic proportions. The government itself is arming themselves to the teeth, but at the same time, sales of guns and ammo to private citizens have smashed through all historical records. Ammunition prices are nearly steadily rising steadily, and rifles, handguns, and shotguns are out of stock everywhere. Gun manufacturers are running double and triple shifts in their own factories, trying to keep up with demand, and some have simply canceled all new orders for the next few months until they get caught up. Okay, and I mean, think about it. You got this whole thing about the governments and the government agencies and all the factions of it wanting to take away our Second Amendment rights, and so they, I mean, face it, these mass shootings are nothing more than false flags. Mind-controlled slaves, probably, you know, demonically influenced as well, you know, so, and they have been using these mass shootings to try to pass laws that will go against the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. Well, what's happening is every single time these huge mass shootings, like the one in Colorado, the one in the Sikh temple, and a few others, Fast and Furious, where they literally sold guns to the Mexican drug cartels, you know, they try to blame that on the Second Amendment, you know, so, but see, when all of these things are going on, I mean, think of it this way. The citizens don't care. They're not cowering, you know, they're not cowering down that much. You know, I mean, the majority still are, but there's also, you know, a huge amount of people that are going up and buying up ammo and weapons as well. Okay, because they probably have a feeling in their gut that's telling them to do this. But at the same time, they have no, you know, I'm not saying they don't have any faith in God, because some of them could be devout Christians and everything, and they're just doing whatever they can to protect their family, and I can understand that. You have the right to defend yourself. Okay, a lot of people some will disagree with that, but that's just how I feel. But we shouldn't be putting our faith in the weapons. Rather, we should be putting our faith in the weapon that is not carnal, but mighty through the pulling down of strongholds, which is the Word of God. Okay. Yes, we are supposed to provide and protect our family. Okay. And the Bible says that if we don't do that, we are like an infidel. Okay. So, I mean, it does say that. So, but at the same time, we can't put our faith in the aspect of, well, the weapons are going to save us, because we're going to go after the big bad government, and we're going to go after the New World Order, like Alex Jones and even Mike Adams here from National News. It's basically all man-centered, that they're going to bring humanity back to where it was with all the info and stuff like that, so you got to understand where they're coming from. Anyway, he goes on to say even further, I've even noticed myself getting caught up in the rush. Every time there's another shooting in the USA, people like Obama, Bloomberg, and Schumer call for gun restrictions. And I find myself immediately buying another firearm. Why? Because people want what they perceive will soon be unavailable. It's basic human psychology. That's why many gun shops in the USA credit Obama as being... This is actually funny. That's why many gun shops in the USA credit Obama as being salesperson of the year. Why? Well, nobody has caused more guns to be sold to more U.S. citizens than President Obama. His power to cause citizens to arm themselves at breakneck speed is legendary. Every time he opens his mouth, it seems citizens flood the gun shop with cash at the ready. Well, I mean, who can blame him? I mean, look what he's done. Look at what he's done in his first 4 years. I can almost guarantee you, if he's reelected, I really sense that there could be a possibility of a civil war here. I think regardless of who gets elected. Okay, that's just, I mean, that's not a prophecy from the Lord or something. It's just a strong feeling I have, especially with everything that's going on, and because there are people that are catching on. They might not be saved, but there are people that are waking up to the corruptness of these governments and the invasions that they are doing on the citizens and stuff like that, and it's not going to be that much longer, okay, until there is some kind of linchpin that's pulled, and it's going to set everything off, okay, and we're going to be at war with the authorities. So, the result of all this is a massive nationwide escalation of firepower and the potential for serious conflict on the issue of liberty versus government power. The government, of course, wants to control everything and turn citizens into obedient minions. Many citizens have a problem with that. See, the government basically doesn't want a group of citizens critical for thinking on their own. And what they want is obedient workers, okay? Obedient workers. Just dumb enough to run the machines and these types of things, or just smart enough to run the machines and just dumb enough to basically do whatever they tell them to do. But there's gonna be a lot of people that's not gonna fall in line for that. Many citizens have a problem with that, and they demand a restoration of constitutional liberties which have been stripped away by nearly everyone in Washington, including Bush, Obama, and yes, even the vice president candidate Paul Ryan, who voted for the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. Remember that? And then he goes on to say, at this point, my personal belief is that we're sadly already past the point of no return. I see the very high possibility of the U.S. government engaging in a shooting war with the U.S. population within the next 24 months. Again, that's what he believes. Obviously, my wish is that no such acts of violence take place. But history has shown that when the population wakes up and realizes how royally they've all been ripped off, deceived, and enslaved, it results in a spontaneous outburst of rage against the system. History has shown this is the stuff of revolutions, and revolutions are rarely peaceful. So, something to bear in mind. Okay, so next article is startling evidence that central banks and Wall Street insiders are rapidly preparing for something big. Okay. So, startling evidence that central banks and Wall Street insiders are rapidly preparing for something big. It's out of economiccollapseblog.com, who I believe does a really good job with his blogs. I mean, he really links everything up very nicely. He just does a really good job. So it goes on to say, if you want to figure out what is going to happen next in the financial markets, carefully watch what the insiders are doing. Those that are connected have access to far better sources of information than the rest of us have. And if they hear that something big is coming up, they will often make very significant moves with their money in anticipation of what is about to happen. Right now, Wall Street insiders and central banks all around the globe are making some very unusual moves. And we're going to get into that. In fact, they appear to be rapidly preparing for something really big. So exactly what are they up to? He wrote a previous article entitled, Are the Governments and the Big Banks Quietly Preparing for an Imminent Financial Collapse? I'll put that in the link in the description box below on my YouTube channel. And you can read further into that, because I didn't pull that one up. But he goes on to say about that article, he speculated that they may be preparing for a financial meltdown of some sort. As I noted in that article, more than 600 banking executives, 600, had resigned from their positions over the past 12 months. And I've been personally told that a substantial number of Wall Street bankers have been shopping for prepper properties this summer. I honestly don't know what they're saying by prepper properties. I don't know if that's buying up land or taking land from certain farms and keeping it for themselves. I don't know what that is, but I see that quotation, prepper properties, and it kind of alarms me a little bit. But now even more evidence has emerged that quite preparations are being made for an imminent financial collapse. That doesn't guarantee that something will happen or won't happen. Well, again, according to the Bible, it's going to happen. Okay, again, all you have to do is look at the Revelation 6:5 and 6:6 for that. And over again, when it talks about famines and droughts, I mean, that's all part of it. Like any good detective, we are gathering clues and trying to figure out what the evidence is telling us. Now, why is George Soros selling so much stock and buying so much gold? I am certainly not a fan of George Soros. He has funneled millions upon millions of dollars into organizations that are trying to take America in the exact wrong direction. However, I do recognize that he is extremely well connected in the financial world. Soros is almost always ahead of the curve on financial matters. And if something big is going to go down, George Soros is probably going to know about it ahead of time. That's why it is very alarming that he has dumped up all of the banking stocks and that he is massively hoarding gold. The following is from shtfplan.com, which goes on to say, quote, "In a harbinger of what may be coming our way in the fall of 2012, billionaire financier George Soros has sold all of his equity positions in major financial stocks according to a 13-F report filed with the SEC for the quarter ending June 30th, 2012. Soros, who manages funds through various accounts in the U.S. and the Cayman Islands, has reportedly unloaded over 1 million shares of stock in financial companies and banks that include Citigroup, which is 420,000 shares, JP Morgan, which is 700,400 shares, and Goldman Sachs, 120,000 shares. The total value of the stock sales amounts to nearly $50 million. It's a lot of money. What's equally as interesting as his sale of major financials is when Soros has shifted his money at the same time he was selling bank stocks. He was acquiring some 884,000 shares, approximately $130 million. So again, I kind of like how he writes this, because he kind of puts into layman's terms of what like these shares are. Because I'll be honest with you, I am not a financial guru. This whole economic thing is really, I know a little bit about it. So this is really a new thing for me of doing this type of study. So of gold via the SPDR Gold Trust. Now, why would you dump over 1 million shares of stock in major banks and purchase more than $100 million worth of gold? Well, it would make perfect sense if you believe that a collapse of the financial system was about to happen. I mean, to me, that makes perfect sense. I mean, after all, I mean, I know how bad George Soros is. I mean, that's one evil dude. Okay. He's probably one of the guys that are orchestrating all of this. And, I mean, he said in an interview, I think, in 2010, that that he wanted China to basically head the world currency or something like that, or take over the world reserve currency, and that we are to be, the tail, and China is to be the head, or some kind of odd thing like that. I don't know if that's exactly how it went down, but I know I did hear it. I mean, so he wants this to go down, and so does all the other Illuminati, elite, whatever you want to call them, Jewish elite, bankers, whatever. I mean, they're all basically essentially the same thing, but that's what they want. So you got to bear that in mind. Now, earlier this year, George Soros told the following to Newsweek. This gets interesting. Quote, "I am not here to cheer you up. The situation is about as serious and difficult as I've experienced in my career," Soros tells Newsweek. "We are facing an extremely difficult time, comparable in many ways to the 1930s, the Great Depression. We are facing now a general retrenchment in the developed world, which threatens to put us in a decade of more stagnation, or worse, the best case scenario is a deflationary environment. The worst case scenario is a collapse of the financial system." Now, it looks like he's putting his money where his mouth is. Perhaps even more disturbing is what he believes is coming after the financial collapse. Now, this is kind of freaky. He goes on to say, this is why, this guy is definitely bad news. "As anger rises, riots on the streets of American cities are inevitable. Yes, yes, yes," he says almost gleefully, with a smirkish smile on his face. The response to the unrest could be more damaging than the violence itself. And again, he goes on to say, "It will be an excuse for cracking down and using strong-arm tactics to maintain law and order, which, carried to an extreme, could bring about a repressive political system. a society where individual liberty is much more constrained, which will be a break with the tradition of the United States. See, he wants to collapse the United States. He wants to get rid of, you know, the freedoms that we have and everything. That's basically what he's saying right there, okay? So we basically know what they're all about, pretty much. Now, that doesn't sound good, now does it? George Soros has told us what he believes is going to happen. Now he is making moves with his money that indicate that he is convinced that it is actually about to start happening. And again, we're also going into October, you know, into September, October. You got the 11th anniversary of 9/11. Okay, that's kind of funny. And I mean, I honestly don't think nothing's going to happen then, because a lot of people are always expecting something to go down on the 11th day of September. But October, I mean, has always been known as basically the worst month for Wall Street and stocks and shares. I mean, even before there was the recent depression, which we are in, or recession. October has always been bad, and with how bad the financial system is right now, and how it's just imploding or just unraveling at the seams, who knows what's going to happen in October. Not to mention, you got the current juggernaut over there in the Middle East that's just waiting. The Middle East is hanging by a thread before a huge war breaks out. Okay, so now you got that going on too, which could spark this whole collapse. You know, the collapse could be what starts the war, World War III, essentially. So, I mean, there's so many ways that this can go down. But he is not the only one that has been busy accumulating gold. Billionaire John Paulson, the one that made $20 billion on the subprime mortgage meltdown, has been buying gold like crazy, and his company now has 44% of its 24 billion fund exposed to gold bullion. So why are Soros and Paulson buying up so much gold? Okay, central banks are also hoarding gold. According to the World Gold Council, the amount of gold bought by the central banks by the world absolutely scared during the second quarter of 2012. The 157.5 metric tons of gold bought by the central banks of the world last quarter was an increase of 62.9% from the first quarter of 2012 and 137.9% increase from the second quarter of 2011. So there's a mass increase of buying of gold amongst these higher ups, basically. At 157.5 metric tons, gold buying among central banks came in at its highest quarterly level since the sector became a net buyer of the precious metals in the second quarter of 2009. Data in the organization's quarterly gold demand trends report show. So why have the central banks of the world become such gold bugs? I mean, is there something they aren't telling us? I kind of believe so. Rampant insider selling. Wall Street insiders have been dumping a whole lot of stock this year. In his previous article, economic collapse, linked to a CNN article from back in April, which states first quarter earnings have been decent, if not spectacular. This is according to Wall Street, dumping their stocks. And many corporate executives are issuing cautiously optimistic guidance for the rest of the year. But while insiders' lips are saying one thing, their wallets are saying another. The level of insider selling among S&P 500 SPX companies is the highest in nearly 10 years. That is not good. So a lot of insiders appear to be getting out at the top of the market while the getting is still good. So they're basically pulling everything out. Other insiders appear to be bailing out before the bottom falls out from beneath them. Just check out what has been happening to Facebook stock. It hit another new record low on Thursday as insiders dump stock. The following is from the CNN article. Facebook's life as a public company has been a nightmare from day one. And the pain continued on Thursday as some company insiders got their first chance to dump shares. Facebook stocks hit a new all-time low of new intraday low of $19.69 Thursday morning. This was from last week, so, and ended the day 6.3% lower at $19.87. So sadly, Facebook has now lost close to half of its value since the IPO. Now, will Facebook end up being the poster child for the irrational stock market bubble that we have seen over the past couple of years? Overall, retail investors have been very busy pulling money out of stocks in recent weeks. And the following are the net inflows to equity funds over the past 5 weeks in millions of dollars, according to JCI. I don't really understand the numbers presented there, but you can see them right here, basically. But he goes on to basically state that according to the figures above, more than $10 billion has been pulled out of equity funds over the past 2 weeks alone. That's a lot. So, does this mean anything? Well, maybe. Maybe not. But it is very interesting, and it bears watching. Here's another section. Why does the U.S. government need so much ammunition? Okay, now we're going to be getting into more of the we're going to be getting into that a little bit more later. So, when we go further into that, we already basically laid the groundwork of that. Now we're going into the financial portion of this. So the next article is as follows. Jacob Rothschild, John Paulson, and George Soros are all betting that financial disaster is coming. Again, from economiccollapseblog.com. This individual's been very busy. Goes on to say, are you willing to bet against 3 of the wealthiest men in the entire world? Jacob Rothschild, and that evil name, recently bet approximately $200 million that the euro will go down. Now, there's been, economists from all sectors have basically, a lot of people have been saying that if the euro collapses, that the U.S. has basically got 2 to 3 weeks before their dollar crashes. Okay? That's why a lot of people are really eyeing the euro, or keeping an eye on it, because that could prove to be the linchpin for the dollar crashing. Billionaire hedge fund manager John Paulson made somewhere around $20 billion betting against the U.S. housing market during the last financial crisis. So he made $20 billion by betting against the U.S. housing market. So during the last financial crisis in 2008. So again, what does that tell you? If they're going ahead and placing these bets, these mass amounts of bets, and even if their bets are wrong, it doesn't even put a hole, it doesn't even put a little dent in their pockets, okay? They're just doing it for a show. That's all they're doing it for. I mean, what's $200 million to Jacob Rothschild? I mean, really? Seriously. The Rothschild family in general. But again, it just goes to show that these real high level three individuals, really seems like that they know things are going to happen, so they come out with these massive bets to, I don't know, maybe appease their sick and twisted minds. I mean, they're of their father the devil, and of his works they will do. Evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, having their conscience seared with a hot iron. So, and the love of money is the root of all evil. Well, you know these individuals love money. So, all you have to do is put that into perspective, and you'll be able to draw your own conclusions. I mean, all you need really is the Bible, and you'll be able to figure this stuff out. It's not really that hard. But most people don't want to read the book. That's a really sad thing, because that book can save you. Anyways, let's start with Jacob Rothschild. Apparently he believes that the euro is headed for quite a tumble. The following is from a CNBC article. He goes on to say, you know, the euro is in deep water when a doyen of the banking industry, Lord Jacob Rothschild, takes 130 million euro, that's $200 million, bet against it. Okay, but the euro has already been falling dramatically. In mid-2011, the euro / US dollar was above the 1.40 mark, and right now it is at about 1.23. It's quite a big drop off. Does it really have that much more that it can fall? Probably not really. If the eurozone ends up breaking apart, I mean, does it really have that much more that it can fall if the eurozone ends up breaking apart? I mean, it sure does. So, if there is a Greek default, or if Germany leaves the euro, or if a new currency comes along to replace the euro, those currently betting against it will end up looking like geniuses. Another big name in the financial world that is betting against the euro right now is John Paulson. The following is from a recent Der Spiegel article, which is this right here. And it goes on to say, now I'm not going to get into this whole article, I just wanted to show you where it came from. I'll provide a link below. This was at the very last, there we go. It's right in this area. Okay, but the euro has already been falling dramatically. Blah, 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 blah. Another big name in the financial world that is betting against the euro right now is John Paulson. The following is from a recent Der Spiegel article, which states, quote, one of these warriors is John Paulson. The hedge fund manager once made billions by betting on a collapse of the American real estate market. Not surprisingly, the financial world sat up and took notice when Paulson, who is now widely despised in America as a crisis profiteer, announced in the spring that he would bet on a collapse of the euro. And as I noted in my last article, this the Economic Collapse blog, Paulson has also been putting billions of dollars into gold. So just what are Rothschild and Paulson anticipating? Could we be on the verge of a massive financial collapse in Europe? According to Der Spiegel article mentioned above, a lot of investors seem to be preparing for such possibility right now. And it goes on to say even further. Banks, companies, and investors are preparing themselves for a collapse of the euro. Cross-border banks leading is falling. Asset managers are shunning Europe, and money is flowing into German real estate and bonds. The euro remains stable against the dollar because America has debt problems too. But unlike the euro, the dollar structure isn't in doubt. The financial world is starting to wake up to the fact that the globe is absolutely drowning in debt, and it is not really good to be holding fiat currencies when a debt crisis erupts. Because it's going to be essentially useless. I mean, understand, I know you're going to be throwing your gold and silver in the streets, but man, I mean, if you got the means to do it, I mean, put your investments in gold and silver. I mean, not a piece of paper. I mean, something that's physical. I mean, something that you can hold in your hand. I mean, something that's yours, that you have possession of. Okay? Like gold and silver. I mean, even if you can't, there's going to come a point in time where all the money that you have in your bank is going to be essentially gone, wiped out. And I believe we are getting to that point very, very soon. Okay? I mean, really, this really shouldn't strike fear into anybody, because, I mean, this is Scripture coming alive. You know, I mean, if anything, it should fire you up. It should build your faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. Faith cometh by hearing, hearing by the word of God. That's where you're supposed to be putting your faith in. That's where you're supposed to be putting your trust in. That's where you're supposed to be putting your fear in. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. Okay? So, not going guns blazing, going after the New World Order, and not being so man-centered, and not leading people to the Lord Jesus Christ. I mean, I use a lot of Alex Jones articles because I do believe that he's, you know, there's a lot of stuff you can glean from there. But at the same time, he never points anybody to the Lord Jesus Christ. He never, he compares humans as being species and stuff like that. And it's like, no, we were made in the image and likeness of God, okay? We're not just a species. You know, so he's got a new age quirk about him too. You know, so, but again, there's stuff that you can glean. There's a lot of stuff you can glean from the site, I personally believe. You just gotta try to get past the fear propaganda he spews out sometimes. It kind of gets, to me personally, I think it gets kind of funny. But anyway. But anyways, the financial world is starting to wake up. There it is. When men like John Paulson and George Soros start pouring huge amounts of money into gold, it is time to start becoming alarmed about the state of the global financial system. The amount of money that these men are invested in gold is staggering. There was also news last week in an SEC filing that both George Soros and John Paulson going back to this article here, had increased their investment in SPDR Gold Trust, the world's largest publicly traded physical gold exchange traded fund, the ETF. Mr. Soros upped his stake in the ETF to 884,400 shares from 319,515, and Mr. Paulson bought 4.53 million shares, bringing his stake to 21.3 million. Unbelievable. At the current price of about $156 a share, these are new investments of about $88 million of Mr. Soros' cash and more than $700 million from Mr. Paulson's funds. These are no significant positions. So, and the central banks of the world are certainly buying gold at an unprecedented rate as well. According to the World Gold Council, the central banks of the world added 157.5 metric tons of gold last quarter. That was the biggest move into gold by the central banks of the globe that we have seen in modern financial history. But that might just be the beginning. According to a recent Market Watch article, there are persistent rumors that China has plans to buy thousands of metric tons of gold. So here we have China now. Within the gold market, there is unconfirmed speculation that China plans to buy up to at least 5,000 to 6,000 metric tons of gold, and it will start to buy during this year, according to Kevin Kerr, president of Kerr Trading International. If China buys this much gold, that would exceed annual global production of gold, he said. We do not have enough gold for China to buy that much, and it will take China time to purchase this amount of gold. So what comes next? Nobody is quite sure. Another major financial crisis could erupt in Europe at any moment. I mean, it's at a teetering point. Okay. A major war in the Middle East could start literally at any time, and that is I can't say how much truth is in that, and that's a lot of truth right there. I mean, it's just hanging on by a thread. Everything that's going on over there with Syria and in Iran, and I mean, it's just nuts. It's crazy. Renowned investor Jim Rogers believes that things are really going to get bad after the next election. Okay, so there's another possible prediction, and that's in November. Others believe that the action could start even sooner than that. You know, you got September and October, and October is usually the worst month for these types of things. The truth is that even though we have not seen a Lehman Brothers moment yet, things in Europe just continue to get progressively worse. And the Bible says that these things would be getting worse. The following is from a recent article by Mark E. Grant. Quote, whether you turn your attention to Greece, Spain, Italy, Portugal, or even Ireland, it is getting worse. Nowhere on the continent are things improving, and even in France and Germany, the financial strains are beginning to show. It is not a question of Eurobear or Eurobull. It is just the numbers as they come rolling out month after month. You know, so, I mean, this is what they're admitting to. This is what they're saying. You know, while the average individual out there is constantly worrying about their local sports team or what's going on with Hell's Kitchen tonight and what's going on with Dancing with the Stars, and being totally programmed and brainwashed by the idiot box, that most Christians will be caught unawares when these things really start to when the handle really starts to get torn down. You know, and that's a sad state of affairs. But again, the Bible clearly said it was going to be like that. There is a growing realization in Europe that the euro simply does not work. Italy is absolutely drowning in debt. The Spanish economy has basically descended into a depression, and Greece has been experiencing depression-like conditions for years at this point. The euro is doomed. The only question is who is going to blink first. Nobody wants to be the first to leave the euro. There are rumblings that it could actually be Finland that leaves the euro first, and that would please Germany just fine because they don't want to look like the bad guys in all of this. But that doesn't mean that Germany won't eventually pull the trigger if nobody else does. The German public is sick and tired of bailing out the weak sisters of Southern Europe, and at this point it looks like it would take perpetual bailouts just to keep the euro together. And that's where we come in. That increases our debt. And recently there have been lots of little signs that Germany is starting to move slowly toward the exit doors. In fact, I found it quite interesting that a giant euro sculpture was recently removed from the Frankfurt International Airport in Germany. Wow, that's interesting. You know, the big statue sculpture of that big blue E that symbolizes the Eurozone, basically. Well, it goes on to say a massive Eurozone sculpture, identical to the one in front of the European Central Bank, was dismantled and removed from the Frankfurt International Airport in Germany last Thursday. Wow. The official explanation is the plastic parts are getting weak after 11 years, and the terminal needed the space. And give me a break. I'm sure there's probably more to that than just needing the space. Does the Eurozone sculpture's removal from the Frankfurt Airport indicate Germany is preparing for a surprise return to the Deutschmark? I think is a very strong possibility that that is the case. Sure, that might just be a coincidence, but it also could be a harbinger of things to come. Sadly, most average people living in North America and Europe have absolutely no idea what is coming. Most of them just want to be able to get up in the morning and go to work and pay the bills and take care of their families. This is also another means that you can take care of your families is, number one, getting into the Word of God. Number two, understanding the times that we're living in. Number three, and then back to number one, preparing spiritually. So getting in the Word of God, preparing spiritually. You know, number two, preparing physically. If God so leads you to do as much as, you do what the Lord tells you to do. Okay? He is more than capable of protecting his remnant. Obviously, there are going to be martyrs and these types of things, but, he does preserve a remnant, and God is perfectly capable of protecting that remnant. Unfortunately, millions upon millions of those hardworking individuals are in for a very rude awakening. A lot of people are about to have their current lifestyles totally turned upside down. And this guy is pretty much spot on, I believe. But it doesn't have to be all bad. In fact, I found it very interesting to read about how some young people are responding to the depression in Greece. And this is what it says. In the spring of 2010, just as the Greek government was embarking on some of its hardest austerity measures, 29-year-old Apostolos Sionos, packed in his well-paid job as a website designer, gave up his Athens apartment and walked away from modern civilization. In the foothills of Mount Talithion on the Greek islands of Evia, Mr. Sionos and three other like-minded Athenians set up an eco-community. The idea was to live in an entirely sustainable way, free from the ties of money and cut off from the national electricity grid. He basically just totally said goodbye to everything, and it's just totally living on his own with no dependency from any higher ups at all. The group sleeps communally in yurts they have built themselves. They grow their own food and exchange the surplus in the nearest village for any necessities they cannot produce. Now that's kind of key, because I mean, think about it. When everything really gets down, when everything really goes down, see, again, there's going to come to a point where the gold and silver is going to be worthless. I mean, it's not going to be worthless as far as value, but what's it going to be when you ain't going to be able to buy or sell unless you have the mark of the beast? Okay. So what are people going to be doing amongst themselves? They're going to be bartering. They're going to be bartering food. Really, that's really going to be the crux of the matter. Is food barters and other types of goods and needs. So it's just things you got to keep in mind. Yes, I do believe in preparing physically as far as gold and these types of things, but again, you just got to put that in perspective. So I think there is a lesson to be learned there. What he's saying. When the system fails, it is going to be important to be able to live independently of the system. Governments and big banks all over the world. Now think of how many people are even prepared to do that. Okay, I mean, when stuff really gets bad, I mean, you got wars, possible war coming to the U.S., Russian soldiers that are working for the U.S. inside the U.S., the terror cells that we have here, it's going to get pretty bad. And people are going to be so caught unawares. There's going to be a lot of death and destruction coming on the horizon. I don't like to say that, but really it's not a far stretch of the imagination at this point in time. Where am I at on time? Okay, go ahead and finish this article, and then we're gonna end part 1 and gonna go to part 2. Maybe finish it up in part 2. I'm not sure. I would like to. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Government and big banks all over the world have been rapidly preparing for the coming financial collapse. Perhaps the rest of us should be too. If you can believe it, 77% of all Americans live paycheck to paycheck. That's 77%. And unfortunately, I mean, that includes myself. Again, if you're just if you're just concentrating on just living paycheck to paycheck, and if that's all you're worried about, then where is your faith in God? Where is the where's the faith in God for Him to provide for you when you need it? Because God knows the things that you need before you even ask Him, and He's perfectly capable of preserving you. You just have to have the faith to believe it. But you have to have the faith to officially step outside that boat and walk on top of that water. Okay? That's just basically what it's going to boil down to. And our faith is going to be tried. And we better be ready. Because people are falling away like crazy. And it's only going to get worse. And people who you thought were devout Christians are going to end up betraying you, your family. Families are going to be betraying family members. It's going to get bad. It's going to get real bad. So, and I believe all of this is even before the Antichrist arises on the scene. And even then, after that, it's still going to continue. If another major economic crisis comes along, many of these people are going to be totally wiped out. And there are already signs that the U.S. economy is basically on the life support at this point. Just look at the velocity of money. In an economy that is growing and healthy, money tends to circulate very, very quickly. But when the economy is sick, money tends to circulate very slowly. And that is exactly what is happening right now. In fact, the velocity of money is currently at the lowest level in modern U.S. history. And if you look carefully, you can clearly see, for those that are watching this on video, the current chart here. And as you can see, from the 1970s, 80s, the 80s from 1990 to 2000 was basically our best time. And then from 2001 onward, we had a nice little spike there, around 2008, and then around 2008 onward, it's just been a continually downward spiral with a little bit of a spike here and there. That's basically when gas dropped down. I like to, you look at gas prices, you can tell that's how bad things are getting. But that's when things were starting to look better, but then all of a sudden it just keeps going down and down and down. It's continually rolling downward spiral with a little bit of a break here and there, a little bit of a band-aid, and then eventually that band-aid's got to come off. So, you can look at this chart to basically see where we're headed. So, in the next article, we already basically briefly went over, which is investors prepare for euro collapse. Banks, companies, investors are preparing themselves for a collapse of the euro. Cross-border bank lending is falling. Asset managers are shutting Europe, and money is flowing into German real estate and bonds. The euro remains stable against the dollar because America has debt problems too. But unlike the euro, the dollar's structure isn't in doubt. I kind of tend to disagree with that one a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of doubts in the dollar. Eight economic threats that we were not even talking about at the beginning of the summer. So, hey, why not have just a couple more threats to add to the many amounts of threats that we already have. So anyways, moving on. In the crazy time in which we live, it helps to expect the unexpected. Sometimes you can think that you have it all figured out, and then this world can throw a real curveball at you. And that's a lot of times that's basically how prophecy goes, as far as scripture too. A lot of people base their theories on what they read in books and these types of things, and I have a tendency, yeah, there's probably some truth in what has been said, but for the most part, I believe things are going to happen a lot differently than what has been originally anticipated. So, very few people anticipated that we would see a massive outbreak of the West Nile virus in Texas this year, or that the Mississippi River would be in danger of drying up after experiencing historic flooding last year. Who would have thought that we would see the worst drought in more than 50 years, or that horrible wildfires would burn nearly 7 million acres of land? This is why economic conditions are always so hard to predict. A single black swan event can come along and change everything almost overnight. Our world has become incredibly unstable, and so who really knows what the rest of 2012 will bring? Will we see a stock market crash? Will the hurricane season be unusually bad? Will war erupt in the Middle East? Will we see a major earthquake on the West Coast, or even a volcanic eruption? Will the upcoming election cause an eruption of anger and frustration in America? That one, I believe, is a very strong possibility. We don't know the answers to those questions yet, and the truth is that we will probably see some things happen that very few of us are anticipating at this point. This is an exciting time to be a news junkie. Well, it's not really exciting, but on a biblical standpoint, it really puts in perspective of the Bible coming to life as far as prophetic events. When we read into these things and do the research, and it's just amazing how there's so much biblically that is going on right now. It's almost off the charts. One person can't do it, can't even cover it all. But needless to say, it's what's happening. But unfortunately, the vast majority of the news these days is bad. Obviously. And don't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out. It is almost as if a perfect storm is developing. Our weather is going crazy. Our financial system is on the verge of collapse.
Our politicians seem more insane than ever. There is evidence of social decay all around us, and the drumbeats of war in the Middle East grow louder with each passing day. As strange as 2012 has been so far, I fear that things are about to get a whole lot stranger. Not that we haven't had some very unanticipated events happen this year up to this point. The following are 8 economic threats that we were not even talking about at the beginning of the summer. Number 1 is the West Nile virus, which has engulfed over 47 states now, by the way. And also, I did look it up. Natural, probably pill form vitamin C can help prevent or maybe possibly even cure it, if you are infected. But it doesn't hurt to be taking vitamin C, natural vitamin C. It just wouldn't hurt. What is up with all the strange disease outbreaks that we have seen so far this year? Flesh-eating disease and the bird flu have both been making global headlines this summer, but in the U.S. right now, it is the West Nile virus that is getting the most attention. Now, this was let's see here. This was just the other day, I believe. It wasn't too long ago. It was a few days ago. So far, more than 1,100 cases of the West Nile virus have been diagnosed in the United States, and more than 41 people have died from it. More than half the cases so far have been in Texas, but we have also seen people come down with West Nile virus in Mississippi, Louisiana, South Dakota, and Oklahoma. If you live in any of those areas, you might want to do your best to avoid mosquitoes for the rest of the summer. And then number 2 is the historic drought. This summer, the United States has experienced the worst drought that it has seen in more than 50 years. This weather has been absolutely crippling for farmers and ranchers all over the nation. As I wrote about the other day, about half of all corn being grown in the U.S. is currently either in poor or very poor condition. As the drought has dragged on, many farmers and ranchers have become increasingly desperate. In fact, one farmer has even been feeding his cows candy in an attempt to deal with rising feed prices. Needless to say, this drought has been causing commodity prices to soar. On Tuesday, the price of corn closed at a record $8.38 a bushel, and the price of soybeans closed at $17.30 a bushel. The Mississippi River is drying up. Thanks to this drought, rivers and lakes all over the United States are drying up. In fact, there have been reports that millions of fish have been dying because water levels have gotten so low in many areas. Even the mighty Mississippi River has dropped to dangerously low levels. At this point, the Mississippi is lower than most people living along the river can ever remember. If it drops much lower, it could potentially have an absolutely devastating impact on the U.S. economy. A recent NBC News report described what is at stake. Which says about $180 billion worth of goods move up and down the river on barges. 500 million tons of the basic ingredients for much of the U.S. economy, according to the American Waterways Operators, a trade group. It carries 60% of the nation's grain, 22% of the oil and gas, and 20% of the coal. According to American Waterways Operators, it would take 60 trailer trucks to carry the cargo in just one barge, 144 18-wheel tankers to carry the oil and gas in one petroleum barge. Now, if all traffic along the Mississippi was forced to stop, it is estimated that it would cost the U.S. economy about $300 million a day. And that's staggering. And get this, already there have been stoppages along one 11-mile stretch of the river. 11 miles of the river. Nearly 100 boats and barges were waiting for passage Monday along an 11-mile stretch of the Mississippi River that has been closed because of low water levels. So they closed it. They closed the river down. The U.S. Coast Guard said. New Orleans-based Coast Guard spokesman Ryan Tippett said the stretch of river near Greenville, Mississippi, has been closed intermittently since August 11, when a vessel ran aground, basically riding on the ground, essentially. So what happens if the Mississippi gets even lower? One can only tell. Number 4, which is wildfires. The extreme heat has also been responsible for the horrific outbreak of wildfires that we have seen in the western United States this year. So far in 2012, nearly 7 million acres. 7 million acres have been burnt up. That is an area about as big as the state of Maryland and Delaware combined. And then you got the global elite hoarding gold, as we were just talking about. In the past, the global elite and the mainstream media would mock those who are hoarding gold in anticipation of a major financial collapse. But now it is the global elite who are hoarding gold. In a previous article, I discussed how men such as George Soros and John Paulson are investing mind-boggling amounts of money in gold right now. The amount of money that these two individuals are investing in gold is difficult to comprehend. It goes on to say, there was also news last week in an SEC filing that both George Soros and John Paulson had increased their investment in SPDR Gold Trust, the world's largest publicly traded physical gold exchange traded fund, or ETF. Mr. Soros upped his stake in the ETF to 884,400 shares from 319,550, and Mr. Paulson bought 4.53 million shares, bringing his stake to $21.3 million, or 21.3 million shares. At the current price of about $156 a share, these are new investments of about $58 million of Mr. Soros' cash and more than $700 million from Mr. Paulson's funds. These are significant positions. Now combined, Soros and Paulson dumped more than $750 million in gold during the second quarter of 2012 alone. That is a lot. So what are they anticipating? Well, the central banks of the world have been very busy hoarding gold as well. According to the World Gold Council, global central banks were net buyers of 157 metric tons of gold during the second quarter of 2012. Over the past 20 years, there has never been a time when global central banks have accumulated that much gold during a single quarter. So just what in the world is going on? Obviously these banking systems, they are scrambling. They know something is coming, and probably something is coming very quickly. Okay? They know this. They are not in the dark at all. Basically, it's all by design anyways. They're creating the problem. Okay, so number 6. Everyone knew that Greece was in deep trouble. This is a recession in the UK. And everyone knew that Italy and Spain were in deep trouble. But it was a surprise to see the UK economy plunge deep into recession during the second quarter of 2012 alone. The UK economy shrunk by 0.7%. At this point, the British economy has contracted for 3 quarters in a row. Hopefully things will not get even worse over there. And then also, number 7, we have a major economic slowdown in the United States. Considering the fact that U.S. economy never even came close to recovering from the last recession, it is a bit disheartening to see that it looks like we are headed for another major downturn. According to Michael Panzer of Financial Armageddon, measurements of economic activity compiled by the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia indicate that the U.S. economy is rapidly heading into another recession. If you doubt this, just check out this chart. Go and look at it real quick. The Federal Reserve 1 and 3 month diffusion indexes calculated from coincident economic activity indexes for 50 U.S. states. And obviously, this was in 2008. And we seem to have a little bit of an improvement. You know, this is basically when we started the Depression, or what they call a recession. And then, I mean, it kind of went up and down, but then as you can see the graph here, it's just already dipping way back down, and it has not climbed back up since. So clearly we are really heading into a nice little spiral there. Downward spiral. The downward spiral all over the place. I mean, it's bad. Like I said, the drought, wildfires, the Mississippi River drying up. I mean, it's some pretty big stuff. So, and for a lot more reasons why the U.S. economy is entering in another recession, you can check out this article. So we'll go ahead and scan that real quick. And this is another economic collapse article, which is 17 reasons why those hoping for a recession in 2012 just got their wish. So you can go and check that out. I'll try to post a link for it below. So on my description box on my YouTube page, for those that are watching instead of listening on Blog Talk Radio. Again, my YouTube channel is JJ Vassal 1982, and my website is MeggidoRising.com. And hopefully pretty soon I'll have a email list you can sign up for, and I'll be able to get you some newsletters and compilations of different events and stuff like that. So be looking forward to that. Because I just basically switched over the domain name and everything, and you know, I'm currently working on that as well. So okay, so and then again, here's number 8, which is hauled off to a mental institution for what you believe. Isn't this interesting? Do you ever worry that what you post on Facebook could get you involuntarily committed to a mental institution? Well, that is exactly what happened to one military vet recently. A former Marine named Brandon Robb was hauled off to a mental institution because of what he posted on his Facebook page. This is how the Economic Policy Journal summarized what happened to Robb. The muscle used to grab Brandon Robb was local Chesterfield County, Virginia police. Also present during the grab were agents of the FBI and of the Secret Service. Both the FBI and the Secret Service claimed that they were only observing and not participating in the grab. The Chesterfield County Police initially stated that they were only carrying out a request from federal agencies. The police also claimed Robb is not under arrest, even though he was led away in handcuffs. So, I mean, he was under arrest. That's what they did. They arrested him. And is not permitted to leave the psychiatric ward of a hospital, even though it appears that Robb is not in any way in need of psychological care. I note this happened in the United States of America with local police. I note this happened in the United States of America with local police, FBI agents, and Secret Service taking part. There's a lot of bizarre things going on. So the claim that Robb is not under arrest is completely and totally ridiculous. The authorities came to his door, slapped handcuffs on him, and are holding him in a mental institution against his will. And now he has been transferred to a facility that is 3 hours away from his family, his supporters, and his legal team. What in the world is America turning into? I'll give you 3 guesses, but you're probably only going to need one. The Rutherford Institute is defending Rob, and the following is an excerpt from a statement about this case on their website. And it goes on to say, quote, "This is not how justice in America is supposed to work, with Americans being arrested for doing nothing more than exercising their First Amendment rights, forced to undergo psychological evaluations, detained against their will, and isolated from their family, friends, and attorneys. This is a scary new chapter in our history," said John W. Whitehead, president of the Rutherford Institute. Brendan Robb is no different from the majority of Americans who use their private Facebook pages to post a variety of content, ranging from song lyrics and political hyperboles to trash-talking their neighbors, friends, and government leaders, end quote. Facebook is basically a spy op anyways. They basically spy on you. It's, CIA funded, basically. There's really nothing good about Facebook. This is the kind of thing that we have seen under brutal totalitarian regimes in the past. Dissidents are grabbed by authorities and taken to mental institutions where they are conveniently disappeared. Meaning no one knows where they are, they're just gone. This kind of thing is not supposed to happen in America, but it is happening. And you know what? Before the authorities start attacking people for exercising free speech on Facebook, perhaps they should clean up their own house. It turns out that thousands of DHS employees have been convicted of crimes in recent years. The following is from a recent CNS news article, which states, there have been 2,527 Department of Homeland Security employees, or DHS, and co-conspirators convicted of corruption and other criminal misconduct since 2004, according to a federal auditor. The world is becoming a very crazy place, can you tell? I mean, come on, it's very crazy. One thing that most people did see coming this summer was a continuing economic decline in Greece. At this point, Greece is experiencing a full-blown economic depression, and it gets worse by the day. If you can believe it, 1,250 companies have shut down in the second largest city in Greece in 2012 alone. Ouch! And many in the financial world believe that the situation in Greece is going to go beyond the breaking point fairly soon. In fact, analysis at Citibank believe that there is a 90% chance that Greece will leave the euro over the next 12 to 18 months. 90%? They sound pretty sure of themselves, don't they? Not that the rest of Europe is in such great shape either. According to Bloomberg, it looks like Europe will soon be losing about 500,000 auto industry jobs. Efforts by PSA, Puget Citron, and Fiat SPA to end losses in Europe could cost more than 500,000 people their jobs as automakers and parts suppliers grapple with effects of the European sovereign debt crisis. We live in very unusual times. Things are falling apart all around us, and we seem to be rapidly approaching another major economic crisis. And, so... Okay. So the next article is, entitled, "Warning, get your money out. All legal bank deposits protections are now officially gone." This is from Max Slavo from SHTF Plan. And it goes on to say, former Money Ann Barnhart, who in November of 2011 made the decision to cease operations of her brokerage firm and return funds in her customers citing systemic problems within the entire financial industry, has issued a new warning about the stability of U.S. banks and the safety of individual deposit accounts. The warning stemming from a recent federal appeals court ruling surrounding customer funds lost during the 2007 collapse of Chicago futures broker Sentinel indicates that individuals who lose deposited funds because of a financial institution improperly manages that money, even if those funds are supposed to be segregated from other operations of the firm. Are essentially left with no recourse if the firm goes belly up. According to the court, a misallocation of those customer funds, quote, is not on its own sufficient to rule as a matter of law that Sentinel acted with actual intent to hinder, delay, or defraud its customers. The implications of the ruling, according to Bernhardt, will affect the monies of all private individuals. It's all private individuals, okay, who have seen their deposit accounts wiped out in the collapse of firms like John Corzine's MF Global, and put all deposit accounts holders in the country at risk should their banks be faced with a financial windstorm. And this is from Ann Barnhart via Steve Quayle, which goes on to say, the NFA in collusion with the banksters, government, and judiciary have achieved their goal. The entire concept of customer segregated funds is officially, completely, legally dead. Guys, it is over. I know that many of you are still cowering in normalcy bias, unable to deal with reality, unable to face the world as it is, but you have got to snap out of it. The marketplace is destroyed. You cannot be in these markets. All legal protections are now officially gone. You know, and that's the thing. And I see this whole normalcy bias attitude all the time. All the time. And I'm not kidding. I mean, I see it when I'm out in public. I see it in my own little sector, basically, amongst my own friends and some of my family. It's like they're just completely, you know, you tell them this stuff and it's like, well, you know, I can't see it, therefore I can't say it's for sure happening, or, you know, it's not happening here, I can't see it happening, so hey, I mean, you know, it's just all wishy-wash, so I'm just going to throw it all out. You know, but with everything that I have gone over and over, and I've still got quite a bit to go. I mean, everything that I've gone over, before I even get into the Bible study of this to close us out, it's not too long, there's really not much denying it anymore. I mean, face it, it's going to come knocking on your door. So whether it is happening to you personally or not, you might as well just face the facts. You might as well just face the facts and get ready to deal with it. And to seek God in prayer about it. Okay? Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Do I know when? No, I don't. But that's just the way it is. Grin and bear it. You know, I mean, things are not going to get better. And for those that are not experiencing any difficulty at this present time, you better put yourself in the mindset that difficulty is going to come knocking on your door. This ain't going to be no easy free ticket pass out of here. Okay? You ain't going to get no easy free ride. Your faith is going to be tested just as much as the ones that have been blessed financially, you know. So, it's going to come to you too. So what are you going to do about it? It's really all you have to ask yourself. You're going to get yourself right with God. You're going to start reading His Word. You're going to start, I mean, because that's really what it boils down to. The Federal Appeals Court ruled yesterday that not only does BNYM stay at the front of the line, but that using customer segregated funds as collateral is not a crime. And that commingling customer segregated funds with proprietary funds is not fraud. What this means is that even if John Corzine is somehow dragged into a court by private citizens, because you know darn well and well, you know darn good and well that the Justice Department will never, ever touch him. Corzine now has a legal precedent, likely from a bribed or otherwise coerced federal appeals court, explicitly stating that an FCM can use customer deposits to pay its debts, and that the customers themselves are subjugated and have basically no legal rights to their own monies, no matter what the law says or what legal assurance claims or guarantees are made to that customer about their funds held with an FCM or any other brokerage or depository institution. The secured party at the front of the line will always be the mega bank who made the fraudulent loan using the stolen customer funds as collateral. In other words, all customer funds in the United States are now the legal property of J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, BNYM, or whichever mega bank and the counterparty on the loans the FCM or depository institution takes out in order to fund its levered proprietary and house trading desks. So the ruling is specifically designed to protect large financial institutions that have purposefully mismanaged customer funds and used the hard-earned life savings of Americans to gamble on equities, commodities, and bond markets. If those firms happen to make the wrong bet, as MF Global, Sentinel, and a handful of others have recently done, depositors who have placed funds with the banks under the belief that their bank account is securely protected from trading liabilities are now completely exposed and liable for the incompetence and negligence of those who engage in market trading. The latest ruling, combined with recent actions by the Federal Reserve and other government regulators, suggests a massive fraud has taken place, and the financial system itself is under extreme strain, with potential to make the financial collapse of 2007 and 2008 look like just a training exercise. What does that mean? It's going to get a whole heck of a lot worse. In recent days, for example, it's come to light that the government has secretly called on the country's 5 major banks to prepare themselves for collapse by creating stress recovery plans to be used in the event of worst-case scenarios. A few weeks ago, the Federal Reserve also implemented a new policy for money market funds held by financial institutions. Per the new policy, money market funds, which account for some $2.7 million or trillion dollars in deposits across the United States, can be frozen in the event of an emergency or financial panic. I don't guarantee you there's financial panic coming. So this means that if and when the system does go into a tailspin, at exactly the time people will want to pull their money out of their bank, they will be restricted from doing so. Won't be able to get it out. Okay? These latest actions by government regulators, judges, and financial institutions point to one thing, that we have an unprecedented financial collapse in the making. If such a financial crisis comes to pass, it is clear that the policies and procedures now in place will transfer the legally owned deposits and money market savings of individual Americans into the hands of the banks at which those funds are kept. Get your money out. Consider alternate collapse-centric investment strategies. And what is money when the system as we know it falls apart? All right. Now the next section is again dealing with more of this collapse. Now, exclusive U.S. banks told to make plans for preventing the collapse. This is from Reuters, which goes on to say, I'm not going to read the whole thing. U.S. regulators directed 5 of the country's biggest banks, including Bank of America Corp. And Goldman Sachs Group, Inc., to develop plans for staving off collapse if they face serious problems. Emphasizing that the banks could not count on government help, the 2-year-old program, which has been largely secret until now, is in addition to the living wills the banks crafted to help regulators dismantle them if they actually do fail. It shows how hard regulators are working to ensure that banks have plans for worst-case scenarios and can act rationally in times of distress. See, there you go. Okay, and that's basically what I'm going to read on that article, because I wanted to get to that second paragraph. That banks have plans for worst-case scenarios. Well, what does that tell you? See, this right here, this right here, okay? They say, well, they're working to prevent a financial collapse. So, I mean, they got to be doing good, right? No. See, what it is a whole Hegelian dialectic, okay? They are creating the problem, okay? They are creating the problem. And so they are coming up with a solution. And then the synthesis will be, they come out smelling like a bed of roses, and then, hey, we go right back to the whole same scenario again of basically, oh, see, they fixed the problem, so they got to be good, right? So, I mean, that's basically what it is. Now, on the flip side of things, this whole preventing collapse ordeal is basically saying that they're planning on starting something in order to prevent it. Okay, that's how this thing works. That's how the game is rigged. It is a rigged game. You know. So so next section is a response to this. This is from heads up feedback from a banker in response to this article. This is from stevequayle.com. Now again, this does confirm this article, supposedly. I mean, I can't say for sure. I think what is typed up in this little tiny letter here makes a lot of sense. But again, you really have to be careful with Steve Quayle. I know he does a lot with the Giants, Nephilim, and stuff like that. He's got some really interesting stuff with that. But he's another one of these date setters, which like things are like coming so fast. It's going to be in a couple of weeks, and that and that and that. They were so adamant in saying that there is for sure going to be a terrorist attack at the Olympics. Now, I know I made mention of the Olympics like maybe 2-3 times, and said that there is a possibility there could be an attack, given by what these Illuminati card games are telling us, and stuff like that. And you know what? If people were if enough people were basically in a zombie-like state, they might have been able to pull it off, but I think a lot of people basically know or did their research enough and it got out in the open. Now, that doesn't mean nothing did happen. I believe a lot of things happen in the spiritual realm of things regarding the Olympics. I believe the ceremonies that took place might have been actually the beginning stages of the New World Order. Officially being born. Go to Watchman'sCry.com. Nathan Leal, he started a whole series on it, and he's doing a pretty good job so far, I think. Hopefully he finishes it. He can be kind of inconsistent at times, but I'm not him. I don't know his personal life, so I can't really say for sure. But he's doing a whole thing on that. But anyways, back to this letter. Had some feedback from a banker. He goes on to say, Steve, this did not come out by accident in regards to the article I just showed you. Says, Steve, this did not come out by accident. As he said, nothing ever does with the MSM, mainstream media. He goes on to say, I work for Wells Fargo Company and have touched base with you before when I can. I just want to also back your knowledge alerts from V that something is going on in the background that the general public does not know about. I am the individual who will on occasion have to be working over the weekend. So he's one of the weekend workers that works for Wells Fargo. If a crisis might happen, especially when the world and the markets seem to be in turmoil and nobody knows what Monday will bring. War in the Middle East, Asia collapse, bird flu breakouts. What should be taken away from the last year is that we have moved from the realm over the last 40 years from some financial disaster / crash rarely ever happening to it's going to happen. However, no one really knows when, but it will. This will be unheard of even 15 years ago. I mean, think about it. 15 years ago, I mean, you even got like mainstream media coming out and saying stuff like, yeah, there's a world government, yeah, the banks own everything and all this kind of stuff, but it's all a good thing. There's even some mainstream sources that are talking about this. So, it's not just mamby-pamby, conspiratorial alternative media people out there just talking about it. No, it's leaking into the mainstream, although it leaks into the mainstream way after the alternative media puts it out. But at the same time, they're starting to come out and say things. Trust me, I'm not really giving any credit to mainstream media, but they are starting to say the same things that people have already been saying for years when people weren't even listening to them. So anyways, this would have been unheard of even 15 years ago, worrying about what will happen in Europe or the world over the weekend to now, where major financial institutions have to have analysts like myself, and others being on standby just in case. So apparently he's actually, working these weekends. I bring that up because of the article above about how the banks are on their own. So, that's basically what that whole preventing a collapse article was from Reuters. It's just something to keep in mind in case things ever go sideways or the black swan event appears. I know you know this, but I wanted to thank you for having a show. Blah 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 blah. And I am not saying that anything is happening this weekend, but it is becoming more frequent for financial institutions to be on alert and on the edge. I will try to keep you up to date if anything happens. God bless Hawk, you and your listeners, yours in Christ. So anyway, and one thing about Hawk, you know, I mean, very sincere individual, but he's got some mix up for the Gog-Magog war. I'm going to have to do a little study on that to kind of clear things up a little bit. But next article is, let's see. Okay. Next one is, now we're going to get into the all the government agencies, the purchasing of ammunition, and close it out with a brief study, Bible study, and that should do it. So hopefully get through this stuff real quick. And then for the YouTube audience, there is going to be a video clip at the end of this to basically put it all in perspective. So be on the lookout for that. So, okay, moving on along. Social Security Administration to purchase 174,000 rounds of hollow point bullets. We've already read about this from the previous article. Now, this is from, we read about it in the National News article, I think. This is from Social Security Administration, so here's why we need 174,000 hollow point bullets. So this is what they're saying. It goes on to say the Social Security Administration clarified why it was seeking to purchase 174,000 hollow point bullets in a blog post on Thursday, saying that the agency employs special agents with full law enforcement authority. The Blaze previously reported that the SSA had posted a request for, quote, for ammunition on the fedbizops.gov website earlier this month. The solicitation called for 174,357 SIG, 125 grains bonded jacketed hollow point bullets. Okay, and these hollow point bullets are capable of basically disintegrating organs, you know, ripping organs to shreds as it enters the body and spreads. So I mean, it's a very lethal piece of ammunition. Why would they need this stuff? Again, the only thing is, I mean, Social Security Administration, I mean, the ones that hand out the Social Security checks and these types of things, why do they need it? Well, this is what they say. The SSA's Office of the Inspector General addressed the solicitation in a blog post on the agency's website with the title, Beyond the Numbers. As we said in a recent post, our office has criminal investigators or special agents who are responsible for investigating violations of the laws that govern SSA's programs. Well, that's all fine to have criminal investigators or special agents, but do they need to be armed? I mean, do they need to engage in combat against a disgruntled Social Security individual? I mean, let's face it, yes, we know that there are people that milk the system, but a lot of people that are on Social Security are like permanently disabled in some way, shape, or form. They can't work, elderly, you know, and these types of things. And I believe those far reach more than the ones that are actually milking the system. You know, and do I believe that action should be taken with those individuals? Yeah. You know, because they're going about things the wrong way. Now, I'm not saying you go in there and point a gun at them. But no, you take the reports, you hand them into the authorities or the cops come in and they arrest you, and you go to court, and I mean, it's just that simple. You don't need the Social Security Administration purchasing 174,000 hollow point bullets. So, I mean, that's basically what they're saying. Goes on to say, as we said in a recent post, our office has criminal investigators. I already read that. Currently, about 295 special agents and supervisory special agents work in 66 offices across the United States. These investigators have full law enforcement authority. Since when? You know, so I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of criminal background they have either, right? And I'm pretty sure they got that too. Have full law enforcement authority, including executing search warrants and making arrests. Social Security Administration? I don't know. Here's the next one. National Weather Service now. The National Weather Service. Now remember, hollow point bullets are designed to cause maximum organ damage, but the National Weather Service follows DHS in huge ammo purchase. And there has been an update on this in stating the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, are trying to cover up the ammo purchases. And I'm going to show that to you right now. So this is the one we're covering now. I'm going to go over this real quick. Which is, yeah, right here. Okay. But anyways, the Department of Homeland Security has redacted information relating to the quantity of bullets it is buying following a controversy concerning the agency's purchase of over 1 billion rounds of ammo, which many fear is a sign the federal government is preparing for civil unrest in the United States. Well, obviously. Okay. Despite the fact that documents are only supposed to be redacted if authorized by Congress or for national security reasons, a solicitation posted on the FedBiz Ops website yesterday concerning ammunition purchases made by the DHS on behalf of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, contains numerous blackout sections. Okay. The classified portions of the document include references to the amount of 223.62 and 223.64 grain ammunition being purchased. So, and this is so I'm going to read on that, but I'm going to show you. I don't know if you can see it well on the screen for those that are watching, but you can clearly see that the screenshot illustrates how the DHS has blacked out information pertaining to the amount of bullets being purchased. The trigger for this could be an economic collapse that causes angry Americans to flood the streets, similar to scenes witnessed across Europe over the last 2 years. Now, you can clearly see, you can clearly see that all of this has been blocked out. This is a screenshot from the original source. Okay, I'm not trying to flip anybody off. I'm sorry. You see, all that has been blocked out. So you don't know what it actually says. But it does say in Section 3, the contractor shall provide ammunition for ICE, CBP, and FPS as specified below, and it's 223.62 grain daily, just like it says right over here. Okay, it's the same thing. right there, and 223.64 grains duty of another type. And it goes on to say, initial delivery will be made 45 days after contract award, with subsequent deliveries to be made at scheduled intervals throughout the 12-month period of performance. So that's that. So obviously you can tell they're definitely trying to cover something up there. But as Mike Adams writes, the U.S. government clearly sees the writing on the wall. What lays ahead for America is a day of unbearable reckoning. Financial collapse will wipe out savings accounts, pensions, investment funds, and equities of the working class all across the nation. Imagine bank accounts being reset to zero, bank holidays enforced at gunpoint. That will unleash a wave of violent protests, social chaos, and even talk of revolution. The government will almost certainly respond with declaration of martial law, the rolling out of highway checkpoints, and before long, the use of live ammo on unruly protesters. So, I mean, the Social Security Administration has also recently purchased a large quantity of hollow point bullets. The NOAA also recently purchased 46,000 rounds of hollow point ammunition. Now, there has been an update on that. I forgot to go over that real briefly. Matter of fact, let's just kind of touch base with that. Okay, yeah, here it is. Alright. National Weather Service follows DHS in huge ammo purchase. Now, this is the National Weather Service now. And, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. But there has been an update regarding this. It goes on to say, why would the National Weather Service need to purchase large quantities of powerful ammo? That's the question many are asking after the federal agency followed in the footsteps of the Department of Homeland Security and putting out a solicitation for 46,000 rounds of hollow point bullets. Now again, you got to look at the facts. Homeland Security has nothing to do with wars overseas or anything like that. Their main jurisdiction is with the American people, okay, and to the American people. And it's the same thing as National Weather Service. I mean, I just can't really picture Chuck Gatica putting on a camouflage outfits and going and going after the Taliban or something like that. You know, but that just doesn't make sense. It's very bizarre. But this is the update. So that's basically what the National Weather Service is saying. But the update is this. The Washington Post now reports, this is what they're now reporting regarding this. This is dated August 14, 2012. All of this stuff was basically released last week. So I've been compiling this all week, plus also trying to get more new information. And hopefully I can actually put out shorter news videos and these types of things. Hopefully I only have to do like a 45-minute or 30-minute show here and there. Because, like I said, I'll be able to upload more videos now that I won't be doing Blog Talk Radio. And I'll be able to upload my audios up to MeggidoRising.com, which I think will be a lot easier for my listeners and the YouTube audience. The Washington Post now reports via a statement from NOAA spokesman Scott Smullen that the original solicitation contained a clerical error and that the solicitation for ammunition and targets for the NOAA Fisheries Office of Law Enforcement mistakenly identified NOAA's National Weather Service as the requesting office. But this still doesn't explain why hollow point bullets designed to cause maximum organ damage are needed for shooting at paper targets. Was the delivery of the bullets to the NWS a cover for them being transferred somewhere else? That's a strong possibility. It's entirely possible given the sordid history of Fast and Furious, which was a federal government program under which guns were sent directly to Mexican drug cartels in order to blame the Second Amendment. Now, in closing, I want to go to the scriptures, because I know we talked a lot about financial collapse, we talked a lot about a lot of scary things, all these government agencies rounding up ammo, purchasing ammo, hollow point bullets, and these types of things. And there is going to be a video clip that really drives that point home after this is done here. So if we go to Isaiah 54:17, it says, "No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn." He's talking to us. Every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. Okay. We're allowed to judge what is right from wrong. Plain and simple. It's not that complicated. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. Obviously, like I said, I told you that this whole portion was talking to us. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and their righteousness is of me, saith the Lord. Now, if we go back a verse before, in Isaiah 54:16, it says, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and it bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy." Now, I mean, there's just certain things that you just cannot explain, okay? I mean, as far as Jehovah God goes, because his ways are not our ways. You know, it's in the scriptures, therefore I believe it, regardless if I understand it or not. I mean, but anyways, to get more of a definition of waster, it essentially means, from the Greek, it's shaw-khath, which is a primitive root to decay, that is causatively to ruin, or figuratively, literally or figuratively, better cast off, corrupt, or corrupter, meaning an individual or a group of individuals, or Satan himself, or a corrupt thing, or a destroyer, or destruction, you know, like terrorist activities and these types of things. And then also to destroy, corrupt, go to ruin, decay, to be marred, be spoiled, be corrupted, be corrupt, be injured, to spoil, ruin, and again it mentions destroyer. Now, according to the 1828 Webster's Dictionary, it says one who is prodigal, one who squanders property, one who consumes extravagantly or without use. So, and again, so that's basically what it's saying, what it's talking about, the waster. I have created the waster to destroy. Now, again, you can go and look at Proverbs 16:4, or, well, Proverbs 16:3 through 5. "Commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established." And then it goes on to say, "The Lord hath made all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil. You know, and I mean, I can't explain that. I sure don't understand it. I just know it says it, so therefore I believe it. You know, there's other points of the scripture where it states that that God created the wicked for a day of destruction and these types of things. That the wicked go astray from the mother's womb. You know, and I mean, I just, you know, there's just certain things that you just cannot explain, and I don't, you know, I don't understand this. All I know is it says it, that the Lord hath made all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil. So there's wicked people out there that will automatically be given over to wickedness. You know, there is no hope for them. There's no hope for salvation. Now, at the same time, you got to keep in mind that that God has no pleasure in the death of the wicked. Okay, but also He makes all things for Himself. You know, so that's what the Bible says. Isaiah 55:11, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please. So His word is going to accomplish which He pleases, which pleases God. And it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. According to their deeds, accordingly He will repay fury to his adversaries, recompense to his enemies. To the islands He will repay recompense. So shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and His glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, and that's basically what's going to be happening. The enemy is going to come in like a flood. The Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. That's why it's important to put on the full armor of God, so that we may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil in the evil day, having done all to stand, putting on putting on the helmet of salvation, having your loins girded about you with truth, having your feet shod with the gospel of the preparation of peace, putting on the breastplate of righteousness, the shield, above all taking the shield of faith, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty for the pulling down of strongholds. And we wrestle not against flesh and blood. You know, this is our weapon, okay? This is our weapon. This is our sword. Obviously, it's a lot more pages than just a couple verses, but I mean, you get the idea. So, and then finally, Psalms 91, 5 through 12. Which says, thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. Okay, 1,000 will fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Okay. The fear of man bringeth a snare. Okay, if you put your full trust in man, which says, cursed be the man that trusteth in man, okay, if you're putting your full trust in man, and also that means you're putting your fear in him, and you can't be doing that, because if you're fearing man, then you are concentrating on the things of man, or the carnal flesh, and you're not putting your sights and your focus on God. And a lot of times we can get wrapped up in all of this information I just presented to you today, but it ain't going to mean a lick of beans if your faith is not grounded on the solid rock of Christ Jesus. And if it is, you're going to eventually have to walk out of that boat and walk onto the water. But only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. I mean, remember, God is perfectly capable and will preserve a remnant. But you also got to remember that there are going to be martyrs. There's going to be people being persecuted. A lot. But I mean, think of it this way. Absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. You know, some of you may be called to be martyrs. Okay? Now, only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. So, from 91:5 through 8, it says that. Now, why? Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. It's for your prayer closet. That's communing with the Most High. That's communing with Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah God. Okay, the Lord Jesus Christ. That's your alone time with Him. That's making the Lord your refuge. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. So, I want to end on those verses, so we can act on those verses and bear that in mind. With all the stuff that was presented today, is a lot. It's 2 hours of information. Okay, and it's a lot of scary information to the ones that don't know any better. But God is willing, and God is faithful. Put your trust in Him. Put your faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path.